The days of summer are often associated with warmth, freedom, long, lazy evenings. We remember the smell of freshly cut grass, the sound of cicadas in the trees, the feeling of the sun on our skin. It's a time for vacations, late night drives with the windows down, making memories that we think will last a lifetime. But what happens when those memories are not of joy and laughter, but of something far more sinister? What happens when the comforting darkness of a warm summer night becomes a veil for something truly terrifying, something that waits just beyond the glow of the streetlights? Welcome to a collection of stories that will peel back summer's veneer. These events are not the product of imagination. They are chillingly real accounts. Individuals who found themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, idyllic summer evenings transforming into experiences that would haunt them forever. Even during the most carefree season, the shadows can hold secrets. The familiar can become terrifyingly unknown. Tonight, we delve into three such stories, each one a testament to the fact that horror doesn't take a vacation. True accounts that unfolded under the same summer moon you might look up at tonight. Tales of ordinary people changed by a single, terrifying encounter. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, prepare yourself. These stories are not for the faint of heart. Sometimes the most profound fears are the ones that are real. As we step into these unsettling summer nights, the line between a normal evening and a living nightmare can be terrifyingly thin. These experiences could happen to anyone, anywhere at any time. Drawn to the unnerving, drawn to the unexplained. Want more stories that make you question the world's safety? Subscribe. Turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what lurks in the shadows. Now let's begin with our first story. Our first story is about Alex, who worked at a local pizzeria one summer. Most nights were mundane, taking orders and driving familiar routes. But one warm July evening, an unusual order came in near closing time. The customer spoke in a low, hushed tone, with peculiar requests and strange instructions for delivery. Do not use the front door, walk around back, leave the pizza on the rear porch steps, and immediately leave. Payment would be under a loose brick. The address was on the far edge of the delivery zone. A feeling of unease crept into Alex's shift. Despite the strange nature of the call, a job was a job. Alex's manager, though visibly perplexed, reasoned maybe an eccentric person or someone planning a surprise. They decided to go through with it. Alex grabbed the insulated bag. The warmth of the pizza did little to dispel the chill. He loaded it into his beat-up sedan. He pulled out of the brightly lit parking lot and headed toward the edge of town. Suburban streets gave way to winding country roads. Driver's POV, dark, narrow country road lit only by his headlights. Streetlights faded until only headlights cut the black. Houses became distant islands of light. Phone GPS glowed on the dash, his only other light. He tightened his grip. He was getting close. He replayed the instructions in his mind. Go to the back door. Don't knock. Leave the pizza. Money under a brick. Each instruction felt stranger than the last. It felt less like a delivery and more like a clandestine drop. He tried to rationalize. Maybe a sleeping baby, or a dog that would bark, but none of that felt right. Finally, his GPS announced he had arrived. Alex slowed his car and pulled over to the side of the road. The house matched the address, a modest single-story home. It was completely dark. Not a single light was on. The property was shrouded in silence, surrounded by a thicket of dark, imposing trees that seemed to swallow the moonlight. It looked abandoned, desolate, and utterly unwelcoming. Alex killed the engine. The silence was deafening. He sat in his car, staring at the darkened house. Every instinct screamed at him to drive away. This was wrong. The house was too dark, too quiet. It felt like a place that was waiting. It was just a delivery. Get in, get out, get paid. He grabbed the pizza bag. He stepped out, scanning the property. Following the instructions, he bypassed the front porch and began making his way around the side of the house. The house loomed over him, a dark, silent monolith. He reached the back and saw the porch steps. He found the discolored brick. This was the moment of truth. He just had to leave the food, take the money, and this would be over. With his heart hammering in his chest, Alex placed the pizza bag on the top step of the porch. He knelt, fingers trembling as he reached for the loose brick. The brick came away, revealing a dark cavity. Inside, a wad of cash, rubber-banded. He grabbed the money, fumbling with the bills. He shoved the brick back into place. He had followed the instructions to the letter. Now he just had to leave. He stood up. He grabbed the empty pizza bag. He turned toward his car. A blinding light erupted from the darkness, pinning him in its beam. He threw his arm up to shield his eyes. His heart leapt. "Police! Don't move! Show me your hands!" Voices boomed from the trees. The property swarmed. Figures in dark uniforms emerged from the woods. Flashlights cut through the night. Beams aimed at him. Alex froze, terrified and confused. His mind raced. He slowly raised his hands. The pizza bag dangled from his wrist. An officer approached, weapon drawn. "What are you doing here?" the officer demanded. Alex stammered, I was just delivering a pizza." He explained the strange order and weird instructions. The officer listened, unreadable in the harsh light. The officer lowered his weapon slightly. He explained they'd been running surveillance on the house for weeks. The man inside was a dangerous fugitive wanted for violent crimes. The bizarre pizza order was likely a test to check for police. Alex had been a pawn, sent into a lethal situation. Without the police, he'd have walked into a trap, all for a pepperoni pizza. For many, inheriting a beach house is a dream. It conjures images of sun-drenched days and the gentle sound of waves. For the narrator of our next story, this dream became a reality when his family inherited a charming beach house from his late grandmother. The family couldn't wait to spend their first summer there, unaware that the old house was harboring a dark secret. They arrived on a bright afternoon. As they unpacked, the father, David, felt a sense of peace. This was the house where he'd spent summers as a boy. The house was just as he remembered it, but perfection can be a thin veneer over something unsettling. As the days passed, small oddities began to surface. David would catch a strange odor. His wife heard scratching sounds. These minor disturbances were easy to ignore. They were living in a bubble of summer bliss, oblivious to the fact that they were not alone. They didn't know that every night, unseen eyes watched them from the darkness below. The second week of their vacation brought a shift in the atmosphere. The strange occurrences began to grow more frequent. The faint scratching noises from beneath the floor became louder. One night, David's wife, Sarah, woke him up in a panic. She swore she had heard a faint whisper coming from the vent near their bed. The next day, David noticed his favorite pair of flip-flops was missing. Later that afternoon, his young daughter came running to him, her face pale. She said she'd seen a dirty hand retreat quickly back into the floor vent. He immediately inspected the vent. He tried to peer through the slats, but could only see darkness. He told his daughter she must have imagined it. The feeling of being watched became a constant presence. The beach house now felt menacing. He felt like an intruder in his own home, a deeply unsettling feeling lurking just beneath the surface of their vacation. The breaking point came on a humid, moonless night. David couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m, he heard a heavy thump from directly beneath their bedroom floor, followed by a low, dragging sound. This was something else. Quietly slipping out of bed, David grabbed a flashlight and a cast-iron skillet. He had to know what was under his house. He unlatched the crawlspace door and pulled it open. He shone the flashlight beam into the darkness. There was a makeshift bed of old blankets, empty food cans, and their missing household items, and huddled in the corner was a man. For a moment they stared at each other. The man began to scramble towards him. David slammed the crawlspace door shut. He needed to get his family out. David bolted the closet door and woke Sarah. "Grab the kids, to the car now." Something was thrashing in the crawlspace. David dialed 911, explaining a man was under the house. Police arrived. Officers entered, guns drawn. The family watched from the car as officers secured the crawlspace and extracted the intruder. He'd been living beneath them for months, surviving on stolen food and scraps. Watching them, listening through the vents, and a silent member of their lives. They never spent another night there and sold the beach house soon after. Some mysteries are found in quiet, empty spaces right here on Earth. Our story is about one such mystery, an event so bizarre it left 2 friends questioning reality. Mark and Liam were avid amateur astronomers. They spent summer nights driving to remote, light pollution-free spots, setting up their telescope. On this night in August, they found the perfect spot. The sky was a flawless, ink-black canvas, and the Milky Way stretched across it. It was serene. As the hours passed, they talked and laughed, debating the possibilities of extraterrestrial life, unaware that the night held a terrifying anomaly. The universe felt vast and full of wonder. They decided to lie back on the blanket and take it all in with their naked eyes. It was in this moment of perfect tranquility that the night took a turn into the surreal. Mark remembers Liam saying he was going to walk to the edge of the field for a better view of the horizon, a statement that would become the epicenter of an unsolvable mystery. Mark watched as Liam's silhouette moved away from their small camp of blankets and equipment, heading towards the tree line about 100 yards away. He didn't think anything of it. Liam often liked to get a different perspective. Mark closed his eyes for a moment, just soaking in the ambient sounds of the night. After what felt like a few minutes, he sat up, expecting to see Liam on his way back, but the field was empty. He scanned the entire expanse, from the telescope to the dark wall of trees. There was no sign of his friend. He called out his name, Liam, but the only response was the echo of his own voice and the incessant chirping of the crickets. A knot of confusion, not yet fear, tightened in his stomach. He called out again, louder this time, his voice laced with a growing urgency. Liam, where are you? Still nothing. This was unlike Liam. He wasn't the type to play pranks, especially not out here in the middle of nowhere. Mark stood up and turned on his powerful flashlight, its beam cutting a sharp white cone through the darkness. He swept the light across the field, tracing the path Liam had taken. The grass was undisturbed. There were no signs of a struggle, no tracks, nothing. It was as if his friend had simply been erased from existence. After what felt like an eternity of panicked searching, Mark collapsed onto the blanket, utterly defeated. Just as he was about to give in to despair, he saw Liam emerging from the darkness. Relief washed over him. Liam, where the hell have you been? But as he reached his friend, he saw that something was wrong. Liam's face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. Where did you go? I turned around for a second, and you were just gone. I've been searching for you for over an hour. Mark stared at him, completely bewildered. What are you talking about? You're the one who disappeared. You walked to the edge of the field and just vanished. They stood there arguing, each convinced the other had disappeared. There was no logical explanation. They were both telling the truth as they knew it, but both of their truths couldn't possibly be real. Something had happened in that field. Something that defied reason. They packed up in stunned silence. The drive home was quiet as they replayed the impossible events. How could they both remember the other disappearing? It was a paradox with no explanation. They tried to piece it together, but found nothing. Their recollections were identical, just with roles reversed. They researched everything, but no theory fit. The event created a rift. They never went stargazing again. Looking up filled them with unease, a reminder of that night. If one disappeared, where had they gone? Were they in a different field, a different timeline? The mystery remains unsolved. They are left with a shared trauma, a secret that binds them. For best friends, Liam and Josh, summer nights meant escaping to Miller's Field, far from town. It was a vast expanse of farmland under an endless canopy of stars. A tradition since childhood, they felt like the only two people in the universe. This night started like any other, but the peace was about to be shattered. The crickets faded, one by one, into an unnerving silence. Liam noticed it first. Hey, do you hear that? He whispered. The silence was absolute. The vast emptiness felt isolating and menacing. It's weird. The silence was too complete. They sat there, scanning the dark tree line. The darkness felt like a menacing wall. Liam walked to the edge of the woods. He was halfway when he decided it was a stupid idea. He turned back, but saw nothing. The spot where they had been was empty. The blankets, the thermos, the telescope, all gone. And so was Josh. Josh? This isn't funny. His call was swallowed by the void. He ran back. There was no sign anyone had been there. Josh had vanished, leaving him alone in the darkness. Liam's mind raced, trying to make sense of the impossible. Had Josh packed up and left as a prank? He fumbled for his phone, hands shaking so badly he could barely unlock it. The screen's bright light was a small comfort. He called Josh's number. It rang once, it rang twice, it rang 3 times. Then voicemail. He tried again. Panic spilled into full-blown terror. He sprinted back to his car at the dirt entrance to the field. The car was empty. Josh's car was gone. He jumped into his car. He started the engine. It roared and shattered the silence. He sped away, tires spitting gravel. He drove straight to Josh's house. All the lights were on. He saw Josh's parents in the living room window, worried. He burst through the front door without knocking. "Liam, thank God you're okay," Josh's mom cried, rushing to him. "We were so worried." Josh appeared from the hallway, pale and terrified. "Where did you go?" Josh choked. "I turned around and you were just gone." According to Josh, he had vanished. Josh recounted his side. Telescope under the night sky. The crickets stopped. He felt a wave of dread and called out to Liam. The blanket was empty. He shouted Liam's name. He searched the area. He packed up their things in a panic and fled. He'd been calling Liam ever since, straight to voicemail. They stood there, two friends caught in an impossible paradox. Each had a vivid memory of the other disappearing. All their belongings had vanished. They tried to piece it together. The only common thread was the unsettling silence. They checked their phones and found mirrored missed calls. It felt like two parallel realities for one terrifying hour. What had happened in that field? They never went stargazing in Miller's Field again. They couldn't explain it, and no one could offer any logical solution. They were left with a terrifying, unanswerable question. What happens when reality itself seems to break? They are left with the horrifying knowledge that for a brief period of time, one of them ceased to exist in the other's world, and they are forever haunted by the thought that they were each utterly and completely alone. The stories you've heard tonight are more than just tales to tell around a campfire. They are reminders that the world we think we know has a much darker side. It's a side that reveals itself in the quiet moments, in the places we feel most secure. A routine delivery, a family vacation home, a familiar field under the stars. It's in these moments that the veil thins, and we get a terrifying glimpse of what lies just beyond our understanding. The fear from these experiences doesn't fade with the morning sun. It lingers, a cold spot in the back of your mind, a permanent guest in the house of your memory. Thank you for joining us here at Shivers and Stories. True horror is often found not in monsters or ghosts, but in the unexplained, the impossible, the events that leave us questioning our own sanity. The pizza driver who became an unwitting pawn in a police stakeout, the family who slept soundly while a stranger lived beneath their feet, the two friends who each watched the other disappear. These experiences are real, and they serve as a chilling warning. You can never be entirely sure what's waiting for you in the dark. Perhaps you have a story of your own that still makes your heart race. If you do, share your true scary stories in the comments below. Reading others' experiences reminds us we are not alone. The things that go bump in the night are a shared human experience. Don't forget to subscribe to Shivers and Stories and turn on notifications. The world is full of darkness. There are always more stories waiting. Until next time, try to sleep well. Remember to check your crawl spaces. Be wary of unusual requests, and perhaps think twice before you go looking for silence in the dark. You might just find more of it than you ever bargained for.